So, hello, I'm Anne Samoylov of AnneSamoylov.com, of course, and I'm here today with a very special guest. I am so excited. I'm kind of giddy, as I was just saying to Tara earlier. I'm trying to calm myself down. I'm very excited to talk to Tara Gentile. Is that how you say your name properly?
It is.
Okay.
Very good.
And, Tara is someone that I've seriously had, I don't want to overuse this term, but a little bit of a girl web crush on for a while, just because I've loved looking at just how her launches are constructed and how she puts her ideas out into the world, how you put your ideas out into the world. I'm not going to talk to you in the third person. And so I was really excited to get a chance to see you a couple weekends ago, and then I knew I was going to be interviewing you, so I'm very excited to talk to you about launching today.
Yay, I'm excited to talk about launching too. Thank
And
you.
we're trying to be all cozy in our homes because it's all rainy up here in the Pacific Northwest.
Yes.
So you can find Tara on her taragentile.com, and I'll put all that below here, or scoutygirl.com. Which I've been kind of a weird lurker on that site too. I'm not a weird lurker, but just a lurker, which is weird in itself. But anyways, thank you for being here. And here's what I want to do, if you're game, and that is I want to just go back in time to when. Now I know you did web design prior to what you're doing now, but I want to talk about the first time you launched something, whether it was like your site or just that new part of your business, that new business. Take us back to that and tell us about that, and then kind of do the Cliff's Notes version to getting to where you are now.
Sure. Okay. So the very first thing that I ever launched was my very first website, which was not my website now. It's not Scouty Girl. It was this little site called handmadeinpa.net. And it was, I know, most people don't even know this anymore.
In PA. Got it.
What? Yeah, in PA, Pennsylvania. Yeah. And the idea for it was actually my mother's. She called me up one day and she said, Tara, I know you've been thinking about things that you could do online. I have this idea. You should start a website about arts and crafts in Pennsylvania. I said, Mom, that's a very good idea. Thank you. Let me think about that. And an hour later, I think I had bought my domain. I had started my Facebook group, because back then it was groups, not pages. I had ticked all these boxes off, and I called her back up and I said, well, here it is. This is the date it will launch. You can go, join all these different things. It's ready to go. And she's like, oh, okay, that's awesome. So I kind of launched that just thinking about community and really how could I tap into what was already a vibrant arts and crafts scene in Pennsylvania, but bring it online. And so I really focused on person-to-person connections. If I could tell one person, could that one person go off and tell 5 people? And then could those 5 people go off and tell 5 people? So that was kind of my launch idea for that. Although I didn't even know what launching was at the time. It was the benefit of being a complete beginner. You know how at the beginning you don't know what you don't know, so you just make shit up as you go. Yeah. And things go really well a lot of times when that happens.
Funny how that happens.
I know. So I launched that. That went through a whole bunch of different changes. Then I purchased Scouty Girl. And then my next big launch after that was an ebook. Well, big launch was an ebook called 52 Weeks of Blogging Your Passion. And I thought Christmas would be a good time to launch this book. Christmas is not a good time for launching things unless maybe you make stockings or Christmas trees. So... or diets. Diets can be good at Christmas too. So I wrote this whole thing in 2 weeks. Again, I had no idea what went into an ebook. I just saw people writing ebooks and thought, I can do that. I can answer this big question that I get asked all the time, and I can put it in an ebook and I can sell it and it's going to be fantastic. And so I launched it like a weekend. There was a big blizzard in Pennsylvania, which was where most of my audience was still, and the sales just kind of trickled in one by one by one by one. And I didn't make a ton of money off of it at first, but I kept going with it and kept kind of putting it out there. And over time, it really got a lot of momentum. Um, and then, my business has just kind of evolved and iterated from there, from web design to much more of the business strategy and new economy thinking that I do now. And my launches have evolved with it. But that's the nuts and bolts, not the nuts and bolts, but that's the nutshell of those first two initial launches.
Wow. Wow. I mean, it's interesting, like what you said about when you don't know what you don't know, you just kind of go with it. And sometimes actually that's such a, sometimes you want to go back there after you've been moved forward a little bit. You're like, why can't I just keep it that simple?
Yes.
I answered a question, I put it up, I had like a community that I was obviously talking to, which we know, which you probably know now how important that was. You're like, oh my God, I was a genius. What was going on? Like,
Yeah. Yeah. Um, Yes, I really wish sometimes I could go back to that, the benefit of being a beginner, because the more you know, and also the more success you've had, there's this burden of having to recreate that success. If I put something out there now and it falls flat, does that ruin my credibility? Are people watching? Do people know that it fell flat?
yeah,
Or did they just assume that it went well? I don't know, but it's still, there's a lot of pressure on that. And obviously just with a wealth of knowledge, I put a lot of pressure on myself to be the best that I can be, or to do the best launch that I can do. But instead of thinking that way, I just try and think, okay, what can I build on that I learned the last time? So if I do everything right that I did before and I add one more piece, I just add one more lesson that I
right.
learned to that, how much further can I push the needle that time? And for me, that's been fairly successful. I launch things often. I don't put a lot of stock in huge launches like you'll see other people do. And I love watching them, but
hmm
they're way too stressful for me at this point in my life.
Yeah. hmm
Um, I tend to do things a little smaller, but always with this idea of how can I add that thing that I learned the last time?
Right. Right. Yeah. And I think that probably just thinking about the people that you're putting that out for, you're like, okay, well, this is what I gave people last time, and this is what they have at their fingertips. Now, well, how can I like you said, add on to even that experience for them, you know?
Yes. Yes. Eric Ries, the author of The Lean Startup, has this thing that numbers are people. And it's very easy when you're thinking about launching to think about numbers. You can think about conversion rate. You can think about number of subscribers, amount of traffic that your goal for your sales page, whatever. But all of those numbers are people. And if you're always boiling those down to the people and their actions, you can really start to see how your only goal is to either your only goal is to teach people something, to get them to do a particular action, to please them in some way, serve them in some way, meet their needs in some way. And to me, that's the lesson of launching. Just like you said, that's exactly how I think of it. It's like, what more can I bring to these people this time? Not just in the product, but in the launch itself. How can I
hmm
treat people better in the launch itself?
Yeah.
And that always leads to more sales. Well, I shouldn't say always, but I think it tends to lead towards more sales, more respect, more clout and authority, which is, I think, another important part of launching.
Yeah.
Uh, and yeah, so yes, definitely thinking of the launch as being about people and not just about the numbers in the back end.
Yeah, and you just mentioned something I was going to ask you later, but I'm going to ask you now, and that is about the authority piece, and that the launch I think is, especially for first time out, it is your chance to kind of say, hey, I'm an expert in this. You might not know me, but here's what I know. And you mentioned this in a recent event that I went to about establishing your expertise. And I was curious about this because I want you to explain that because like I want you to explain that again and how you would go about like now, I guess how you would tell some first timer now how they should start to establish their expertise. Like what kinds of really practical things can they do?
Sure. Well, I mean, I think the first question is, what are you an expert in, or what do you want to be an expert in? What is the message that you want everyone to know? And that has to shape your launch, your product, your offering. It absolutely has to be the building block for everything else that you do on that. From there, you can boil it down and get it into smaller pieces and say, this is a program that teaches you how to, or this is a launch that's going to focus on these 3 steps to success, or whatever it might be. But you have to focus on what it is that is the message that you're trying to convey to the most amount of people, because that's essentially what you're saying you're an expert in. And whatever product you are is just one small piece of that. I think the other part of this is that we put so much emphasis on free content, free ebooks, free calls, free teleseminars. And don't get me wrong, I love free. Free is great. I am happy to give tons of work away for free. But nothing quite establishes your authority like saying, no, you really should pay me for this. Really.
Yeah.
It's worth money. And I think a lot of people have lost sight of that, and they're trying to only establish authority and expertise through free content.
Right.
And I think the question there becomes, how much are people willing to invest themselves in your free content? Because until your customers are willing to invest themselves, either energy or time or money, they're not going to get the full experience of your expertise. So the easiest way to circumvent that is by asking for their money. And that doesn't mean that everyone is going to buy that sees your expertise or sees you stepping out. And you're not going to convert everybody. But what you will do is say to even the people who aren't buying, this is what I stand for. This is what I know. And that can go a way long way to establish clout and authority within a market. You can grow your list with a paid product, not just with customers, but literally with people who are taking notice. You can create new ties between other people in your space, partners and other marketers, other business owners. You can create those new ties. You can do interviews. You can write new posts, new places. All this stuff kind of comes along with putting that first product or putting out subsequent products that allow people to see, yes, this is what she knows. Yes, this is what she stands for.
Right. So my question then is, I think you mentioned this. I hate like totally referencing something that people weren't there to see, but like one thing that I kept questioning was how you talk about what you're doing and how you suggested, using specific language and not talking in terms of like your process, but talking, it's like that language that you use is so key in establishing yourself as that kind of expert as well. Like I want to know a little bit more about that because I have a question. This is related to me, but I want to know what you think first about that.
Sure. So yes, we all, well, I shouldn't say we all, but a lot of people put a lot of emphasis on their own process and then put a lot of emphasis on kind of these big, I call it coach speak, transformational words, big results that nobody actually believes you can buy, like your authentic self, taking your true path. And, every industry has
finding your truth.
Yeah, exactly. It's not just coaching. It's every industry has these kind of words, has this kind of that goes on. It doesn't make people want to buy. So what I ask people to get really specific on is what your clients are or what your customers are saying, doing, thinking, and feeling. And if you can use their words, literally what they say, or call out their actions, literally, what are they doing? What are they doing that shows you they need this product? And then if you can take some educated guesses, what are they thinking? What kind
Right.
of thought patterns are going on? What kind of feelings are coming up? And then use those to position your product in a way that says, I don't only know what my expertise. I don't only know this particular process or solution. I know you. That makes all the difference in the world. People don't want to
Right.
just know how to fix the problem. They want to know that you understand where they're coming from.
Right.
And so you can clue in on what people are saying, doing, thinking, and feeling. You'll be much better equipped to be able to make that direct connection with people. And that to me is how we can really position what it is that we're doing in a way that people get it, as opposed to this higher level stuff that we understand and that maybe our colleagues understand, but the general public, the people who need what we have to offer, just don't.
Right, right.
But
Yeah. No, I mean, I was thinking, I'm sorry to like, I think Skype skips us over each other for a second, but I think the reason why I'm so glad you answered that for me or explained that more because I was thinking, I'm like, wow, it's funny. I feel like I started talking about my process, but I realized that I didn't talk about it just because I talked about it with the frame that people had been asking me specific questions about their process. So I was answering it as my story in a sense, but it was really through their lens. It wasn't fully my language. Do you know what I mean? Like, so I definitely felt that I feel like doing that process talk is okay if it's very specific. If it's not like an this is what I did today, but more like okay, I'm going to take you through three things that because you've already asked me about this, I've already gotten these questions, but I'm going to show you how it's happened for me. But
yeah.
because I've definitely felt that since I started doing that, and sometimes it wasn't really comfortable, and I won't do it all the time, certainly, but definitely that improved everything for me.
So would you say you're kind of demonstrating?
Kind of. Yeah, I definitely feel like anything that, anything that people write to me, I turn into blog posts. No, just joking. That's, but just like, people in Fearless Launching will talk about their, um, their problems, their challenges. It makes me reflect on the challenges that I've had in those same areas. And then I share that with them so that they can see, yes, people have been there, not just you. Everybody goes through this.
Yeah, no, I think that's right on point, and I think also we may be talking about two different things as well. I think when we're talking about marketing copy, sales copy, getting people in the cycle of becoming ready to buy, we really need to use their language a lot more than our
Yeah.
own language. When we're talking about free, essentially, or even yeah, let's say when we're talking about free, I think there's this need to demonstrate or allow our customers to experience what it is that we know. And that's really where our process comes into play. And even better if
Interesting.
you your process to something that your customers are going through.
Hmm.
Yeah, to me, that's where process is important, but it's not necessarily describe the process. I don't think it doesn't sound like that's what you're doing at all. It
No.
sounds like what you're really doing is providing a very small experience of what it is that you know and how it is that you execute that knowledge or create solutions around that knowledge for clients or customers. And that kind of experience or demonstration allows people to trust you a hell of a lot more than
Right.
just, this is my 5-step plan for doing this, doing
Right.
that.
But I like that. I like that though, Tara. It's like the marketing copy, the sales, the stuff it's actually leading people towards buying something. It has to be focused on their language. There's no way you can't think that you're going to just basically like talk out a sales page, have it be your words, and then have that really resonate with anybody except you.
And your colleagues who aren't going to buy from you.
And they're going to be like, that's really nice. I might check you out, but
Exactly. Exactly. And I think we all need to trust ourselves a lot more with this knowledge too, because we are constantly all getting emails from clients and customers, right? Or potential customers. We're
right.
all on Twitter, on Facebook, watching people talk about
Yeah.
their problems.
Right.
The excuse for not listening to your people on social media, in your inbox, on your blog, in person, out when you're having drinks, whatever it might be, whatever field you're in. There's no excuse for not listening. And that's what I see a lot. Just a lot of people not listening to so much knowledge, so much data that's right in front of them.
Right. So there's no reason to wait for your survey monkey to come back in. It's already out there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I love surveys because I love like data and picking things apart, but I don't do a ton of them. I do them more, I kind of for fun, really, or like I'll have a question and I just desperately want to know the answer to it, so
Yeah.
I'll throw together a survey real quick. Really, when I want to know what my customers really think, when I want to know what my customers really say, that's when I go to social media, or
Hmm.
that's when I invite someone out for coffee, or that's when I go to a conference and really plug in with my ideal customers and take them out for drinks and wine them and dine them. And oh my gosh, they tell me all their problems and they put it in their own words. And then they say, oh my gosh, Tara, thank you so much for listening. Like, oh, my pleasure.
No, I think you do an amazing job listening, and it's testament to that fact because in the Fearless Launching community, I mean, there's been threads about you, I'll like, hey, look what Tara's doing. She's coming to Seattle, and they're like, oh my God, and they're talking about how you're talking in the information page about the value driven the workshop, and they were like talking about it like, oh my gosh, I just love how she presents this and it just feels so right, and just like really, this is awesome. You're like, because I listen.
Well, because I listen. I mean, it's
Be careful, everybody. Tara's listening.
because I feel bad that that's the same. I say it over and over and over again, but I'm going to keep saying it until people get it. Like, listen. Social media for me is not about broadcasting. I broadcast a lot on there, but I listen way more than I'm broadcasting. And so I make sure to have channels and places where I can go and plug in and just absorb. Or, I'm lucky too, not lucky, but by design, I've built a platform that talks back to me, right? So I can go to Facebook or I can go to Twitter and I can put my question out there and know that I'm going to get an answer. But that's something that anyone, no matter how, whether they have 5 followers or 500 followers or 5,000 followers, you can get to that point. You need to start now. You need to start
Yeah.
asking questions now and listening for the answers now and cultivating the kind of community that allows you to listen.
Yeah, I wanted to say one thing. There was a woman who was in Fearless Launching who I talked to. It was like the first round, so back in March or whatever. But she was struggling because she didn't have any kind of list. But she was really active on Twitter. She was really active on Facebook. She was really active on Pinterest, oddly. But she had all these followings, and she was very active in the community on Facebook. And for some reason, she didn't think that what they said counted. And I said, they're people, right? They do count. So maybe you'll find out really quickly if they're your right people, but they're still going to be speaking in their normal human voice. And so she learned so much just from starting to listen, to see what, I mean, her topic that I won't even go into it, but like her topic was kind of taboo. People don't talk about it. And that's in itself something that you can learn from, how to talk about. How do you talk about something that people don't want to admit to on social media, or can you? So she learned a lot about her audience just from listening and seeing what they did and didn't respond to, which I thought was great.
Well, I think people are really good pattern recognizers, and you will very quickly learn how to tell the difference between the patterns that come up for your ideal clients and the patterns that come up for just people who maybe are on periphery, or maybe they just like to hear themselves talk and buy from you. Um, that's one thing that I would really encourage anyone, especially people who are listening on social media. You can't just listen to everyone. I mean, you can listen to everyone, but then you need to filter. You need to separate and say, what are the patterns that I'm seeing from people who match kind of my ideal customer archetype? and what are the patterns of people who are saying things that, I don't want to deal with that area, or I don't want to deal with that problem, or I don't want to deal with that kind of psychology. Okay, we're going to set those answers aside, and we're going to listen to the ones that I really know how to fix, or that I really know how to address in a constructive way. So yes, there's a lot of filtering that has to go on. I think that's especially true on social media. I do think it's also true on our email list. People sign up for our email list for all sorts of reasons. And even though they may be more pre-qualified to buy, there's still all sorts of people there. And so you really have to be discerning about what you're going to listen to and what you're not going to listen to. But you have to start by listening to everything.
Yeah, and be okay with saying, oh, you know what? Even if the person did sign up for your list, you've got to, if they start communicating with you, you may find out that they aren't going to, they will never be your customer. And I think it's okay. Even people who will approach you for coaching or for whatever, personally, you might be like, wow, I really need this, but this person is not right for this right now or whatever. And you have to be okay with telling them, no, this might not be right for you or whatever. Like, just, I think in general, just like listening, kind of getting into the mind of some people are going to be right for you and some aren't for what you're offering.
And I think that's a beautiful thing. For every person that's not right for you that you come across, you're going to find five more that are.
Yeah.
And there's just, I love thinking about people. So there's so many crazy different kinds of people in the world, and we get to see one very small chunk of that. But a very small chunk is really big. Like, in terms of that, I like to think about the Millionaire Matchmaker on Bravo. She a very particular segment of the market, mostly kind of egomaniacal, narcissistic. And she has built her business on this itty bitty customer segment. And if she can build her business, a thriving, a huge business on this itty bitty customer segment, then certainly each of us can build our businesses on our customer segments. Yeah. Anyhow,
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, I like talking about this stuff too. And I think that all of this, like understanding like listening to people and, maybe even being part of a conversation with them, even if it's on just some random part of your social media experience. I think all of that is like truly where the beginnings of launching really, they have to start there. They have to start there, and, I feel like I could keep talking about this topic with you, honestly. Like that to me, I think is the one piece that people think that they can just kind of gloss over. And we talked about this really briefly before the recording started, but people want to skip the why they're doing it, who they're doing it for, and like, do those people really need it?
Yes, I totally agree. If I could give like one more super tactical piece right
Yeah.
around this customer thing. I have a group coaching program called Make Your Mark, and the second week we ask all of our participants to go out and physically interview a customer. Some of them, yes, on Skype, but most of them we say, please try and find someone local to you and take them out for coffee, take them out for a glass of wine, whatever it is, and get in front of them and literally go down a list of questions. Be curious. Curious is like my word for the second half of 2012. It's probably going to be my word for 2013 too. Be curious about your customers. This is not just about you. It's not just about what you have to offer. It's about finding where those two things meet, right? Your customers and what you have to offer. And if you don't give at least as much attention to your customers and your curiosity about them as you do your process and what you bring to the table, you're not going to find that middle point. And that middle point is where the best stuff happens.
Yeah, I think that is so, so great. And, for a long time, I wasn't doing that. And only after I just kind of swallowed okay, I got to get out of my internet cave and go out and talk to people. And I realized that some of my customers were here locally to me. And I was able to just finally get to this different level of understanding. And that understanding and that curiosity, I love that too. I love being curious about, I love sitting back and not saying anything in the Facebook group and just going, okay, what's going on with people today, and actually caring.
Yes. Yeah, 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 yeah.
It's
Yeah.
funny how that works. Like if you care about people and listen to them, that's kind of what people want is to be cared about and listened to.
It is always what they want. Always, always, always.
Um, okay, I got to ask you one more launch question just because this is supposed to be about
Please.
launching, but we got on, but I do think the customer is such a key part and what we've been just talking about. So my question for you is something that always comes up from the members, people who are launching for the first time, and that is, do you really, in your opinion, do you think you need, okay, I'll go back. Do you think it's valuable to do a launch even if you don't have a huge audience yet?
Yes. Yes. Unequivocally, I think it's valuable. I think your goals need to be very different. I think you need to set really different goals for yourself. How many people can I ask for help with this launch as a goal? How much can I build my list as a result of this launch? Not just how much money can I put in my pocket. How can I use this to spread my message? How can I use this to make a name for myself? What goals can you set for yourself there? But I've seen people put out really amazing pieces of value into the world, products, services, projects, ideas, without a big list that use those pieces of value to build their list, to grow their audience, to create a community, to create a new network. That's what's really powerful to me about launching early. And then, as a result of this amazing whirlwind learning process, you can channel that into a launch that then meets other goals like how many dollars, how many sales, how many new customers. Those are great goals. Like, I don't want anyone to think that I'm not into those goals. I'm totally into those goals. There are other goals for launching too, and those goals I think are perfect when you're just starting out. I also think that when you're launching and you don't have a big list, you don't have a big community, you're essentially saying, I'm open for business. And there's a lot of people who won't pay attention, who won't even think of buying or approaching you until they understand you're open for business. And it does shift the dynamic a little bit of their relationship with you. And I think it's good to be as open and honest and sincere about that relationship from the get-go. So the sooner you're open for business, sooner you establish that relationship in a really healthy way.
Yeah. Yeah, that's that I say ditto on all that because, I was blogging myself and I tell the people in there and I mean I've heard the I've heard it said though that when you're first when you're kind of like build what you're building with that kind of end a little bit in mind because it is hard to be blogging free content for 3 years and then all of a sudden think you're going to launch something, or people are like, wait, I thought all this stuff was free, there is something to be said about that. But I did that. I did that. People weren't buying anything. Didn't have really anything for sale for a couple of years. And then I just knew that it had to happen. And sometimes you just have to do it. And it does take a little while for people to kind of catch up. And the people who aren't interested in buying do eventually leave your list. But I really think that that first launch, it helps you kind of figure out what that whole process is like. You do have to set those different goals. I completely agree with that. And you just have to be realistic about it and look at it as you putting yourself on the map, as making your mark, as like saying, I'm here, here's my mark. I'm going to put an X right here. X marks my spot right here. And I'm going to stand here and have something to offer you, so I totally agree with that.
For the people too who have been blogging for 3 years and have never put anything out for sale, or been building organizations or communities and they've had different goals all along and now they're ready to say I'm open for business. I think the best thing that you could possibly do is launch something that definitively has a separate value from what you've been doing all
Yeah.
along. So, if you've been blogging for 3 years straight, an ebook is probably not the best way to go because then, I mean, there's a wonderful comparison there. An ebook is just a blog that you can download, essentially.
Exactly. And that's what I did. But it did, but it wasn't even like that's what I did, but it was a separate entity. But I agree. It's almost like you have to go away from like the written.
Yeah,
Do you know what I
or,
mean?
right. I mean, I think if you've been blogging for 3 years, probably one thing people really want is some time with you, some time with your brain. And so launching a service or launching a kind of service-driven product is a great way to go right off the bat. Or, if you've been blogging kind of around a topic and you do want to write an ebook that really has something to prove. Like, this is my hypothesis. This is my thesis. This is what you're going to learn. This is what I'm kind of staking my claim on. And that I think is kind of different from a blog or from just blogging in general.
Yeah.
But I think too many people try and make the transition too smooth. And I think there's something to be said about maybe shaking it up a little bit
Yeah.
more.
Yeah. And just saying, oh, this is what I'm doing. Hey.
Exactly.
Exactly. So, okay. Let me just see if I have any other questions here. I took some questions from people. Okay, so the one more thing. This is about customers again. I'm back to customers. But you said, I feel like this was like the most beautiful thing, like you said, when at the event, and that was like you hold like some kind of hope. You have to have like a hope for your customers, where you want them to be. It's not just like you're going to take them through your curriculum and this is where they're going to end up. You have a hope for them. You have like this dream for them. And like, you need to let them know that you're holding that. Almost like you need to make that really clear that that's the dream you're holding for them. I think that makes people feel really special. I don't know.
It does, and I think it instills a sense of confidence too in your customers. At the event, I used a quote from Michael Schrage. I think that's how you say his.
Right, right.
Who do you want your customers to become? It's not even a book. It's a Kindle Signal. It's very small. You can read it in an hour or two. And he was talking about how customers always change, and it's not because they're skeptical. It's not because they don't trust you. It's because they just want to know they're headed in the right direction. And so you go out and say, this is the direction I want to take you in. This is where we're going. It builds a lot of trust. It builds a lot of confidence in the person that you're selling to. And it allows them to see, okay, this product, this program might not be what gets me there, but it's going to get me a step closer. And I want to be a step closer to that vision. And I think that idea of moving towards something, as opposed to always moving away from our pain or moving away from our frustrations or our problems, is just a really great way to be in business, both as consumers and as producers. There's been so many things sold to us that have just been quick fixes. We've been treated as problems to be solved, as frustrations to be alleviated. And while that's important, it doesn't give us that sense of belonging, that sense of hope, that sense of confidence that I think we need to live meaningfully better lives. And I think that's why we're all in business. And I think that's what is going to create that sense of trust and integrity and sincerity in your business as it builds and as more and more people buy what you are launching. And as your launches continue, that's what people will get excited about. They're getting excited about your vision for them. They're not just getting excited about this product that you're putting out.
Maybe I'm like a little bit of a possibility kind of nerd because I'm that way naturally, I think, about people, and especially about people who tell me their ideas. I'm like, I get very excited because I can immediately like break it down for them and kind of come up with some steps that they can just take. But I love that idea, and I think it really shifts like how you create your product, how you even approach people, like what free content you put out there. If you're always constantly like, hey, come along with me. This is the journey I'm going to take you on, or here's where we're going. Here's what we're going to do. Here's what you're going to learn.
A door to better marketing, and it's a door towards innovation as well.
Yeah.
And I don't think we're talking enough about the idea of innovation in this digital kind of personal development, solo business space. When you have a vision for what your customers want to become, you're not stuck with just a blog or an email list or an ebook or a program. You're not stuck with
Or
just
an
that.
e-course or like whatever, like the basics, which that right now I'm like squaring off my Skype box here, but like it really feels right now that this is the kind of thing we need to get out of that, to get out of the, okay, I've got a coaching service and I have an ebook and I have a 2-week intensive, whatever, just,
Yeah, if you're holding that vision for who you want your customers to become, then you can say, what can I do? What can I build? What can I offer? What can I deliver that's going to get them to that place? And it may very well not look like an ebook or a course or a group or a program. It could be an app. It could be a nonprofit organization. It could be a speaking tour. It could be a Kickstarter project. I mean, there are just so many different places that you can go, and that's the direction that you're taking your business,
mhm.
and that's the direction you're taking your customers.
Yeah, I'm so all about that right now. I literally just got off the phone with another entrepreneur up here in Seattle, and we were just talking about this and about just busting all these blueprints, this whole idea that, I mean, there's a few programs which I am somewhat involved with that people come out of there. Not only do their sites look all the same, their lineup looks all the same. It all like kind of fits like the same. If there's some difference, but if you kind of squint your eyes, you're like, oh, those are all the same businesses. But what happens in this whole process of launching is you start feeling like this uneasiness because you know that, wait, that doesn't take people where I wanted to take them. This isn't, you feel that kind of disjointedness. And you're like, there's got to be something different. I'm ready to bust this. There's no more blueprint here.
I'm all about busting blueprints and formulas and tactics. Like, that does just not interest me at all.
I know, I know. Oh my gosh, Tara, you know what? I really want to continue our conversation at another point. I know you have a full day. I just wanted to can I just thank you for being here? This conversation was extremely inspiring for me, and I know it will be for the members of Fearless Launching.
So glad. Thank you so much for having me and letting me talk about the things that I like to talk about so much.
Okay, so I'm going to say goodbye for now, but are you going to be speaking? Are you still speaking at a couple more weekends? Is there 2 more or just 1 more speech? Are you done?
Let's go.
Okay.
It's actually next Thursday.
Thursday. Yeah. Well, if you're in San Francisco or even in California somewhere, road trip, seriously, go see Tara because it's and maybe we'll put like a link to the main page. I think I have that link, so I'll put it there, or else I'll ask Megan for it. And just whenever you get a chance to check out Tara, I don't know, grab The Art of Earning. It's just like that was amazing. And try to go see her speak. Really great stuff. Do you have any other speaking things coming up for the new year?
Not yet. I will probably be doing more workshops in the winter and spring. Probably, maybe we'll try and get 1 or 2 East Coast ones while I'm back home, and then probably more out here in the West, since I have so many people in the
Is
West.
that your kind of thing? Are you going to do some more? Are you trying to ramp that up?
I'm trying to ramp that up. Yeah, I mean, I love it so much, and I'm so tired of going to conferences and essentially paying to speak. So I'm like, I could make really low cost workshops. People could pay me to speak, and I still get to do the same thing.
Yeah, because it seems really easy and effortless for you. Like you're just like, you come with what you got to say, but really it takes on a life of its own once it gets there. Once you get there.
That is totally my goal, and I should say so you were at Seattle. I did San Diego this last weekend, and they were totally different. I mean, we talked about totally different things. The content was exactly the same. I didn't change the content at all, but the conversation was just very different. And yeah, just like this interview, just like this conversation, I'm very kind of go with the flow. So whatever happens, happens. I love when people bring me questions and examples on the spot, and then I can play with those. So yeah, I mean, showing up and doing it live and just being in the moment, that's kind of my favorite thing in the world.
Well, you inspired me, so you'll see some stuff too from me soon. Because I'm like, oh, I love being not at the computer. This is amazing. I don't have to just like watch Tara on a video, or I don't have to like experience somebody via a video, you know. So I love that. And I think that is, I can't wait. I can't wait.
Yeah, people just put way too much emphasis on online business. Online business, offline business, it's all the same, and your online business will not work if it's not also offline. Doesn't mean you need to offer things in person, but it does mean you need to see your business through the context of the analog world, like real people doing real things, living real lives. And this technology piece, it just facilitates that. It doesn't change it at all. And
Yeah.
a lot of people have really lost sight of that.
Yep. I agree. I agree. Okay. Tara, thank you again very much. And you might have some questions from the ladies and one gent who's inside Fearless Launching. And but thank you again. And I really look forward to speaking to you again soon.
I look forward to it too. Thank you so much.
Okay, take care. Bye.